Sorry, but Star Trek tricked you into thinking this classic episode got a happy ending. Star Trek has always been more than just a space adventure. It's a series that grapples with morality, justice, and the choices that define civilizations. But sometimes, in its eagerness to leave audiences with hope, it crafts endings that seem uplifting at first glance, but upon deeper reflection, reveal themselves as tragic, bittersweet, or even unsettling. One of the most striking examples of this comes from a beloved classic episode that feels like it resolves optimistically until you realize the truth. That's the genius and the trick of Star Trek. It invites us to cheer for the Federation's values while quietly slipping in the darker consequences of its stories. Today, let's dive into the layers of one such episode, explore why we misread it, and uncover why the so-called happy ending was really anything but. The illusion of hope in The Paradise Syndrome. In Star Trek, the original series Season 3, Episode 3, The Paradise Syndrome, Captain Kirk suffers amnesia and is stranded among a Native American-like tribe on an idyllic planet. There, he falls in love with Miramoney, becomes her husband, and even learns she is pregnant with his child. On the surface, it's one of the few times we see Kirk genuinely happy, freed from the burdens of command. He's not the lonely starship captain torn between duty and desire. He's a man who has finally found peace. The closing scenes almost feel like a Hallmark-style ending. Kirk, though grieving Miramoney's death, is rescued by the Enterprise crew, restored to his true identity, and resumes his destiny among the stars. The episode frames this as a bittersweet triumph. Kirk returns to his ship, the crew safe, the asteroid threat neutralized. He's back where he belongs. Fans at the time likely saw it as tragic yet hopeful. Our captain endured loss, but also remembered his higher calling. But that's the trick. The deeper truth is that The Paradise Syndrome is one of the bleakest episodes of Star Trek ever written. Why it wasn't a happy ending at all? When we step back, the supposed resolution is built on loss, grief, and a quiet injustice that lingers long after the credits roll. Here's why. 1. Miramoney's death was needless. Miramoney, who trusted Kirk and loved him, dies not from the asteroid, not from the inevitability of fate, but from being stoned by her own people when they doubted her husband's divinity. Her death is brutal, senseless, and leaves Kirk devastated. The episode never lets him grieve properly. Within minutes, the Enterprise whisks him away, and Miramoney is reduced to a tragic footnote. The supposed happy ending depends on erasing her importance so that Kirk can slot neatly back into his old role. 2. The child that never was. Star Trek is notorious for its selective memory. Events that should shape characters forever often vanish by the next episode. Kirk and Miramoney's unborn child is one of the clearest examples. Here was a chance to explore the captain's humanity in a profound way. Kirk as a father grappling with legacy and family. Instead, the pregnancy is written out as though it never mattered. That erasure is telling. It allows viewers to feel like things ended all right, when in reality, the tragedy is magnified. Kirk lost not just his wife, but also his future. 3. The Federation's cold hand. Even if we accept that Kirk belonged on the Enterprise, the ending implies that his duty to the Federation outweighs any personal happiness. That might fit Gene Roddenberry's vision of a noble starship captain, but it's a grim message. Individual joy is expendable for the sake of service. The episode tricks us into nodding along with Spock and McCoy's relief, but what we're really seeing is Kirk's heartbreak being suppressed for the sake of professionalism. The Star Trek trick, optimism as camouflage. So why do so many fans remember The Paradise Syndrome fondly, as if it offered a happy or at least uplifting ending? It's because Star Trek was built on optimism, and the show's tone is a powerful lens. When Spock and McCoy stand beside Kirk at the episode's close, when the triumphant music swells, when the Enterprise sails onward, the audience is nudged to feel closure. That's the trick. The structure and style of Star Trek encourage us to interpret suffering as meaningful, sacrifice as noble, and tragedy as progress. But underneath, nothing is resolved. Kirk's trauma is buried. Miramoney is forgotten. The unborn child is erased. It's the storytelling equivalent of papering over a crack with a hopeful smile. Other episodes where Star Trek pulled the same trick. The Paradise Syndrome isn't the only time Star Trek wrapped tragedy in the packaging of hope. A few other examples show the franchise's recurring sleight of hand. City on the Edge of Forever TOS. Perhaps the most famous tragic ending in Trek, Kirk falls in love with Edith Keeler, only to realize history demands she must die. The closing shot shows Spock and Kirk walking away, seemingly resolved. But is it really resolution? Kirk has lost his great love, and the Federation can't acknowledge it. We leave the story pretending Kirk has moved on, when in reality, he never could. The Inner Light TNG. Picard lives a lifetime on another world, loves, raises children, grows old, only to wake up and find mere minutes have passed aboard the Enterprise. The ending suggests he treasures the experience, playing his flute as a sign of gratitude. But the deeper truth is that Picard lives with a crushing grief. The family he loved is gone, and only he remembers them. The Visitor, DS9, Jake Sisko sacrifices his life to save his father Benjamin, erasing decades of his own lived experience. The episode ends with Ben alive, hugging young Jake, and the music swells. It feels hopeful. But what we just witnessed was an old man's wasted life and lonely death, erased from history. That's a haunting idea, hidden inside the comforting illusion of a reset button. Why we want the happy ending. So why do fans, and sometimes even the writers, cling to the idea that these episodes end happily? It's because Star Trek was always meant to be a beacon of optimism. Gene Roddenberry insisted on a future where humanity thrived, where challenges were faced with courage, and where hope endured. To sustain that vision, the show often reframes tragedy as noble sacrifice. Kirk losing Miramoney is spun as destiny. Picard's lost family in The Inner Light is reframed as wisdom gained. Edith Keeler's death becomes a necessary act to save millions. We, as viewers, want to believe in that optimism, so we accept the narrative sleight of hand. We let the swelling music and the Enterprise's steady voyage convince us that everything turned out all right. But when we step back, we see the truth. Star Trek was never about easy, happy endings. It was about hard choices, deep scars, and the cost of being human. The lasting impact of the trick. Looking back at The Paradise Syndrome, what's most remarkable is how its so-called happy ending actually enriches Kirk's character. Though the show never directly revisits his grief, you can imagine it lingers in the background of his life. Every time he flirts or deflects questions about romance, maybe part of him is thinking about Miramoney. That's the brilliance of the trick. By giving us the illusion of closure, the writers let the Enterprise continue its weekly adventures while still planting seeds of unresolved tragedy. Fans who dig deeper find a darker, more layered Kirk beneath the charming captain's grin. It's a lesson about storytelling itself. Sometimes the most effective endings are those that pretend to be happy while secretly breaking our hearts. Conclusion: Star Trek's bittersweet legacy. Star Trek has always